are in storm alert on Weather Center today as we track a very dangerous Hurricane Ike.
And I'm Craig Melvin. We are tracking Hurricane Harvey right now. That storm is pummeling the Texas Gulf Coast. The storm made landfall around 10 p.m. Central Time last night. It was a Category 4 storm then.
Focusing on the topic concerning hurricanes in coastal Texas. So how do stronger hurricanes, which are an effect of climate change, affect low-income communities in the coastal region of Texas, pertaining to like Houston and like Corpus Christi?
There's the concern, and I'll start out at first saying that it's not a definitive thing that hurricanes are getting more frequent or stronger, but there's some indication that the storms are moving slower than they did in past decades, and that there's a better opportunity for them to stall out over a given area more than used to happen in earlier decades. And the other item is the atmosphere being warmer than it had been, that it's possible to evaporate more water into the atmosphere, which is then available to produce heavier rain. So Harvey, for example, there are some studies that suggest that the rainfall may have been enhanced by about 15% over what would have happened with the same storm in, say, 1950 or 1960. And that's significant because if you would have had 40 inches of rain in 1950, 15% more would be about 6 inches more, and that would be a 46-inch rainfall. And actually, in some spots, as much as 50 to 60 inches of rain fell.
When and where did the hurricane that you experienced occur?
So Hurricane Harvey. So that was when I was here in College Station. Again, it didn't hit us directly. We experienced like a little bit of flooding. We had class canceled because of that. My uncle, who was living in LaGrange, which is an area close to a little bit away from College Station, he experienced a lot of flooding and some damage in his house. And then one of my friends who does live in Houston, well, two of my friends actually, their houses both got flooded from the hurricanes.
Would you say that the government was involved during the event to help you?
There were a lot of programs on campus that were meant to help people that were affected by the hurricane, but I don't think my friend who the apartment got flooded and she like experienced water damage, I don't think she received any help. I think my other friend, her family ended up applying to like government assistance so that they could afford a new house, and I think they were able to get that done. And then my uncle did not receive any help from the government.
What are some of the biggest changes that you've noticed in the areas that are affected by hurricanes?
I can speak to what I'm concerned about in the Laredo area, which doesn't have anything to do with the hurricanes, except for, again, the rainfall. For example, in '67, when Beulah hit South Texas, we had about 5 or 6 inches of rain over a 4 or 5 day period of time. But that was another example of a stalling out storm. In Falfurrias had 30 inches of rain, and that just put the whole town underwater. So if the same storm happened now, that could be instead of 30 inches, there would be closer to 35 inches of rain. And likewise, our rains could have been heavier.
Did you think that you had the necessary resources to prepare for this hurricane? In this case, like your family?
Yeah. Based on my friends and my family's experiences, I don't think that they were prepared for the hurricane either. It took them like a long time to recover, and they're still recovering from it.
What are some of the biggest changes that you noticed after returning to the area that was affected?
With my uncle, I did, like, obviously the house was like damaged for a bit, and then one of my friends, her house was completely flooded, so she had to move. And then my other friend, she stays in the same apartment, but they had like some water damage in the house, and then because it was like more like an apartment kind of area, and so she had like damage after the hurricane.
Would you say that our community is prepared for hurricanes?
What we have to be prepared for mostly would be flooding rains. The winds, for example, when Hurricane Allen came through in 1980, we had 8 hours in a row where we had winds that gusted over 50 miles per hour. They were sustained at 35 or so. And that did a lot of nuisance damage, like trees, twigs falling down, small branches. But the bigger impacts were the heavy rain band. So you made it through the storm, but it might be a difficult several-week period to then follow having survived the storm, as opposed to having sheltered in a safe place far removed from the coastline.